Right, the Champions League final is on the horizon. We're going to break this video into two parts. We're going to talk about Real Madrid, who, of course, are the favourites in this final against Dortmund, which will be played at Wembley. We're going to talk about their star power and some of those key players that it could be their final. We'll then talk about Borussia Dortmund and how they can cause a bit of a shock. Obviously, it's been a great tournament for both of them. Dortmund, I don't think we expected them to be there, and Real Madrid have come through some big challenges, obviously none less than Man City and Bayern Munich in the last two rounds of it all. Let's start off with Real Madrid, because it's been a bit of a weird one for them. They've had, the league absolutely sewn up, Ancelotti doing Ancelotti things, experimenting, just having a bit of fun, all sorts of different lineups, but continuing to score goals. There was big news this week with Toni Kroos, Kweku, saying that he's going to retire after 2024. He has been unbelievable. And as we look at Real Madrid being the favourites and that star power that they've got, and if it is going to be that bit too much, he is one that is maybe kind of not as shiny, but does shine so bright for this Real Madrid side, especially at the back end of his career.
Yeah, not as heralded as the likes of a Modric or other players that have won multiple Champions Leagues at Real Madrid, but a player that's been so important. And he's worn different hats. And this season, we've seen him more effective in the final third in terms of his final pass through to Vinicius. In terms of how he can create, in terms of how he can sit deep, he can do it all. And the fact that you see Real Madrid players react so emotionally to the fact that he's retiring, I saw a tweet from Vinicius Jr., it shows how important he's been, and one of the few last bastions of the Real Madrid of yesteryear that won 3 Champions Leagues in a row under Zidane. Obviously Modric is still there, but we all remember the midfield of Kroos, Modric and Casemiro that dominated European football for years and years. And this is a final hurrah for him. I do think that Real Madrid have got such incredible star power that it won't necessarily have to come to or fall on the shoulders of a player like Toni Kroos. They've got so many good players that can create moments, and that's what the Champions League is, right? It's a competition of moments. And you can talk about the game against Man City where Real Madrid were dominated in terms of possession, in terms of overall play, but managed to come up with those moments and beat a very good Man City side on penalties. And same against Bayern Munich in the semi-final. Like, who would have thought that they would have gone through courtesy of 2 goals from Joselu? Like, they're a side that can just pull out moments. I think it's embedded in the history and the heritage of Real Madrid. You can go there, you can win multiple La Liga titles, but I don't remember how many league titles Cristiano Ronaldo won. I just know that he won multiple Champions Leagues, and that's very much part of the ethos of the club, and it's very much what they embody and very much what they put forth this season in terms of Champions League football. You've seen him experiment with Vasquez at right back rather than Carvajal, and I think full-back is the most interesting point for Real Madrid, because I think that's where Dortmund are most dangerous in terms of those wide areas. And so we've seen Ferland Mendy and Carvajal, we've seen different iterations of full-back combinations, and if Real Madrid don't get that right, then I think that's where Dortmund could expose them on the Champions League final.
Just to say, I think with Toni Kroos, I don't think I've enjoyed watching a team as much as I've enjoyed Real Madrid this season, because it is a bit of a palate cleanser to sort of positionalism and how everyone's kind of structured in their place. And I think it comes back to Toni Kroos. When you're going to play at the highest level and you're going to control that, but you're also going to play in this style, you need creativity. And you need different kinds of creativity. And I think Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. offer a different kind of creativity to a Bellingham. But a Toni Kroos offers a different kind of creativity as well, in terms of those long passes, being able to see that pass, also to have that telepathy with someone like Vinicius Jr. We saw that in the first leg against Bayern Munich. Yeah. But then that little element of control at times, I think, the pace and the rhythm of a game as well, like sometimes when to go, when to just control the game. He is that 100-touch man for them, and I think he will be crucial in this game as well. What about Vinicius Jr.? Because I think some people talk about him and they talk about Bellingham, and they kind of, some people feel like Bellingham's the star man, others feel like Vinicius Jr.'s the star man. In terms of it being their final, Kroos is unlikely to score the goals, he's more likely to assist them. So in terms of being the hero on the night, which one do you feel like is going to sort of take that mantle?
Well, we've seen a different role for Jude Bellingham in recent weeks for Real Madrid. The goal scoring burden is not as much on him, and Real Madrid have found different ways to win games, and he's not been as prolific as he was in the early part of the season. I think that's almost done him a disservice, because now when you watch Champions League games and Bellingham isn't scoring a 30-yard screamer, people almost like, is he having a good game? But that's not what his game is. His game is doing a lot more than that. He's a box-to-box midfielder in my eyes who can do a lot more than just score goals, but goals is something he's added to his game this season. Vinicius Jr. has already had a Champions League final. He scored the winner against Liverpool a few years ago, and because he is the man in terms of providing that cutting edge. I feel like if there's going to be somebody who comes up with a moment, you're going to put your money on Vinicius Junior, who's been there and done it and does it consistently in the big moments. And it's almost underrated at this point. A lot more players get fanfare. We'll talk about the Mbappe Haaland era, but under the radar, Vinicius Junior has gone and done his job at the best team in the world. And if you think about his start to life at Real Madrid, there's that famous video in the tunnel of Benzema saying, "I swear he's playing against us, don't pass him the ball." And for him to come from that to this is incredible, and all the off-field stuff that he has to deal with at Real Madrid in terms of the racism. He's a player that has shown fortitude and determination to persevere at a team that a lot of people didn't want him to succeed at, and he is one of their key players. So if it's going to be somebody that has a big moment, I put my money on Vinicius. But I want to ask you a question though, in terms of the Real Madrid team. You said it's the most exciting team that you've watched this season. Is it not a bit of an indictment that this is a team that's maybe a little bit in transition, but again, they got made it to another Champions League final? Is it not an indictment on the rest of European football that a team like Real Madrid, who are going to be infinitely better next year when they've got Mbappe, are probably going to win the European Cup this season?
I think it's one where if you want to if you want to lean into the majesty of it all, then I think you go Real Madrid doing Real Madrid things in the last two rounds. Like the Man City game, Man City were sort of pummeling them, really. Haaland was in a bad place at that moment in time, and that sort of came to fruition a little bit. But really, Man City probably should have got past them. The Bayern Munich game, a lot tighter. But again, you've got sort of, possible offsides or not, or they thought it was, but it wasn't. And I think that comes back to finding a way. And I think they've got a lot of players that are comfortable with the spotlight of Real Madrid and play with their chest out. Rudiger being a great example in terms of setting up that goal for Joselu as well. So no, I'm okay with it. And I think the team as well is, I think it's very, very difficult to have the perfect team all together at one time. It's 11 players, and naturally you're going to have to evolve that a little bit. And actually, I think they deserve huge plaudits in terms of how they've evolved it. And I think this is the new blueprint for the top teams. You spend that money on guarantees. But you don't buy 10 in a summer like some clubs have. You buy one or two knowing, and also you let them be on the bench for a little bit. We've seen that with Tchouaméni in the past. We've seen that with possibly Camavinga when it comes to this final, and I'm a massive fan of his. And so that group, you've got one or two older heads, which again, you need that as well. You need those leaders. But you've got other guys who are hungry and desperate to go and be the main man and go and win it. And I think it is about Vinicius Junior and Bellingham for me, because you've got Ryerson on that right hand side, who's got to deal with Vinicius Junior, who I thought was fantastic in that Bayern Munich second leg, and Can and Sabitzer dealing with Bellingham and late runs from Bellingham. I really think it could be Bellingham's moment, just because I think there will be sat back a little bit, and generally midfielders don't have that size to go and win those headers, and it feels perfect for someone like him to be, basically having the other players occupying Schlotterbeck and Hummels, and then he kind of comes from nowhere and scores that goal. We see the celebration, and there he is. Let's talk about Dortmund, because they've done fantastically this year. Group of death. Sneak through that. I think Atletico Madrid, I don't think we saw them getting past that one either. And they've just kept moving. They've been really, really impressive to get past PSG as well. And it's felt like a cup team, which I think it's had to, because they've not got the same superstars. But they have a solid amount of guile, and defensively, I think in terms of Hummels and Schlotterbeck, I think those two in particular for me have really, really shone. For them to win it, they need to probably win it on transition. You spoke about the fullbacks there. Is it that left side that you think could be a big one for them?
Possibly. You've got to utilise the pace of Adeyemi. You've got to utilise the craftiness of Jadon Sancho, who in the Champions League at least has been playing some great football. Schlotterbeck and Hummels have been the foundation, and Can and Sabitzer in front of them they have to provide protection, because what Real Madrid are really good at is luring you in. They play in moments, so it might seem that like they're on the back foot. They lure you in. Can and Sabitzer get a bit too excited, and like you say, Bellingham makes a late run off of them, and then they're in trouble. And so that's where I think that the biggest issue for them will be, is not to get too overexcited. Perfect. Again, we say this in all these finals when there's a clear underdog. If they can get an early goal, that's perfect, because they can sit back and have something to protect, and then you can really use Adeyemi, and Sancho's not necessarily got blistering pace, but you can use that pace that they've got in the wide areas to really affect Real Madrid. And I'm interested to see if Carvajal does start right back, or if it is Vasquez, because I've seen Carvajal in Champions League games this season not necessarily look like the best Carvajal we've ever seen, but he's got the experience, he's got the guile, he's the kind of player that in the final you want to see him play, because you know that he's done it before and he's been here and he's seen it. I'm really interested to see especially because this Dortmund team have got players who can hit the ball from range.
Right.
Do you go with Lunin in goal for Real Madrid, or do you go with Courtois? They both played games towards the back end of the season. Of course, Courtois missed loads of minutes, but Emre Can from the edge of the box, Julian Brandt from the edge of the box. If it's Lunin in goal, I think they don't think twice in terms of hitting it. If it's Courtois, it's a very different story, and that's where I think that Dortmund can get some joy in terms of those pot shots that maybe deflects off a player and goes in. And so that would be a really interesting one to see, because they've got players who can hit the ball. And then you look at Füllkrug up top in terms of the story of him coming from nowhere, developing pretty late, and a player that scored quality goals in the Champions League running already. I'm really, really happy for this Dortmund side. They've got to a Champions League final, because it's been a long time for them. The last time they got to a final was 10 years ago under Jurgen Klopp at Wembley, and they lost against Bayern Munich. And I feel like Real Madrid are clear favourites, but there's something in the air. There is something in the air with this one. And if Dortmund can get an early goal and have something to protect, then I think they might be able to shock Real Madrid in terms of this final.
They do give you a bit of a puncher's chance, Real Madrid. I thought there was moments in the Bayern Munich game where it was like, just get it to Musiala. They didn't pop it to him quickly enough. No. And because of that midfield, Toni Kroos, as great as he is, out of possession, doesn't have those same legs. I do feel like you say, if you can get the ball to Füllkrug quickly, his hold-up play and his ability to bring in players is really, really impressive in my opinion. And again, with Adeyemi, with Maatsen on that left-hand side as well, that's where they're going to get some joy. And there will be space for that because of the way that Real Madrid play. So I think it's absolutely up for grabs. And I went to the League One playoff the other day, and Bolton, possession. Oxford playing in transition. And on the day, Bolton didn't pop it about enough, and Oxford did them with a couple of moments, actually on that left-hand side actually as well. So absolutely, Dortmund can really, really hurt this team, as you say, on that right-hand side as well. Be a big game for Valverde in terms of tracking some of those runners and the centre-backs as well. How's it going to play out? What do you think?
I think it goes to extra time. I would love to pick Dortmund, but I think Real Madrid is going to have just a bit too much, and I think Vinicius Junior gets a win. I think 2-1 to Real Madrid after extra time.
Okay. I learned a long time ago you don't go against Real Madrid. I think, look, it's written for Bellingham, isn't it? Against his old team, the season after he leaves, the season that he's had, and obviously we've spoken about how he could score those goals. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win, Bellingham to score, and him to score a header. Get specific, guys. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below.